Hello everybody, I'm Eamon Murray and you're very welcome to Bodhrán Soup. I'll be your host, your chef, your mentor. On this video, I'm going to take you from here and we'll take you through to here. And right through to here. So together we're going to go from the very beginning right through to the advanced stuff. What you can expect from this DVD is a walkthrough right from the beginning strokes to the proficient side of things in my style, which would be considered the top end style. So Bodhrán playing in context then, Bodhrán's mostly heard in Irish music and is mostly played at sessions, which are social gatherings or events where people get together, they play Irish music, and the Bodhrán is essentially the drum kit of Irish music. So what I'm going to do is give you the tricks, all the bits and pieces that I know, you fashion them together in a way that suits you, and it's all completely personal preference and choice, which is the beauty of the whole thing. What I can't encourage enough is that you take it slow. Start at the start, take your time, work things up to speed, and once you get all the ingredients, we can throw them together in the bowl and you can make the soup that you want. It's important to remember to practice. Practice makes perfect, and you can't expect to run before you crawl. You really have to take your time, work things up to speed, and just mess around with it, have fun with it. Don't beat yourself up. This tutorial is going to be divided into sections, so you can go back, you can pause it, go make a cup of tea, take your time. It doesn't matter, there's no panic, and I'll be here with you all the time. And we've slowed everything down on this tutorial, so you can play along with me until you're comfortable. Turn me off, speed it up yourself as quick as you can go, and slow it back down again. Take your time. It's impossible to give a complete guide to the Bodhrán because everybody plays so differently. As I said, my style is top end style, and I'm going to be teaching you in this manner. As well, for any right-handed people, I apologise. I'm a left-hander, so I'm going to teach you left-handed. But again, you just play with your strong hand. Your good writing hand, that's the hand you'll be holding your stick in. So for any righties, flip it around and it's going to make sense for you as well. There are hundreds of different techniques for the Bodhrán, and it's impossible to include all of them in any tutorial. I've included some of my favourites and I hope you like them. Once you get a hang of them, string them together, mix them around, mash them up and incorporate them with stuff that you hear elsewhere on the radio and when you're driving in the car from other drummers. Just throw it all together into the pot and see what you can come up with. And that's the beauty of the instrument. It's so personal. You can take whatever ingredients you like to make a style that suits you. One final point, take your time. There's no rush. I'll be here with you all the time. Take it slow and build it up until you're comfortable with it. Then move on to the next section. So together, let's make Bodhrán soup. You, me, and the horse. The Bodhrán basically is the percussion section of Irish music, I suppose. It's just a single-headed frame drum, and Bodhrán, the word Bodhrán, it's an Irish word. It comes from to be deaf. So it used to be a very kind of thuggish, uncouth instrument, but thankfully over the years it's become much more refined, and it's become I suppose the major percussion section in Celtic music. So yeah, it's a single-headed frame drum with a hide, a goat skin predominantly. Sometimes it's deer skin, sometimes it's calf skin. And now they've started making synthetic skins, but there's kangaroo skins and lots of different. Basically, it's whatever you prefer. 90% of them are going to be goat. If you've bought one along the way in a music store or in an airport or in some sort of tourist trap, you're probably looking at something a bit more like this, a bit narrower in depth and a bit broader in diameter, and it makes it a bit easier to learn on. It's a very simple instrument, and similar versions exist in Asia and in Africa, and it's just a frame drum basically. The style that I play is known as top end style. It's a fairly new term, doesn't really mean much. It's just it's a bit more focused on the one end of the stick as opposed to two ends, but we'll be stumbling across that at a later stage. Holding the Bodhrán, first of all, you hold it on your knee and kind of place it in at the side of your rib cage if you can. Now, some drums, as you can see, this one has a bar down the back which helps to kind of stabilize the drum. Some will have a cross piece, a complete cross piece, a bar going this way and horizontally and vertically, which once again for stability. Some of them have no bar, but I find that if you have it tucked in at the side of your rib cage, that should keep it balanced enough. What you're doing with the backhand then is you're placing it on the skin and kind of giving it a bit of a squeeze against your rib cage, and that should keep it all in place. You should nearly be able to lift it up and down if you're doing it right. So what I'm doing with my hand at the back is leaving it at an angle. As you can see, my two fingers and thumb and kind of the heel of my hand is keeping the drum balanced. If you cup your hand with your kind of wee finger and the heel of your hand, some people prefer that way. Either way will work. I find not to keep your hand flat on the skin. If you keep your hand flat on the skin, I find that it kills the tone, and you want to let the drum resonate a bit. So I find that either that way or that way kind of gives you enough resonating. Now, beginning with holding the stick is it's kind of up to yourself, whatever you find most comfortable. I was told when I was learning to hold it like a pen, but I find that's kind of very restrictive because I'd hold a pen like that. Some people do hold it like that. I find that eventually you cramp up. The way I find the most comfortable is between my first finger and thumb and resting on my second finger, and that kind of is that suits my top end style, or whatever way you want to put it. It just suits me. Some people like to do that, 2 fingers on thumb and resting on their third finger, which is fine as well. Some people like to hold it right in the butt of their hand and play it that way. Now, I find that it's a bit harder to control that way, but once again, it's completely up to yourself. There's no right or wrong, and that's the beauty of this instrument. The way to kind of prepare, or to when you're a total beginner, is to kind of make sure your wrist is nice and loose. So if you're stretching, kind of stretch forward, stretch back, and just make sure that you're nice and limber before even playing. One of the other exercises is to hold the stick between your 2 hands like that, and stretch out like that. Just make sure that you're as loose as possible before you take into starting to play. Whenever you're sitting down, the context of where you're playing the bodhrán is important. In Celtic music, it's predominantly used in sessions, which are sort of social gatherings for musicians, where they go to a bar or a club or whatever, some sort of social event, and they get together, play tunes, and musicians just kind of bounce off each other. And it's very much it's a relaxed setting, so you can kind of take it easy when you're playing, and it's a nice context to kind of learn. When you're going into a session, there'll be a group of musicians that are sitting together playing tunes, having a few drinks, relaxing. So it's the kind of context that's the most enjoyable for me. So when you're going into a scenario like that, you want to be nice and relaxed. And when you're sitting in the session, your posture's good, you're nice and loose, and you kind of take it from there. So the very, very beginning stroke, the very first thing that you ever learn on the bodhrán is just the down-up stroke. It's the kind of lifeblood of playing the bodhrán. It's what every bodhrán player does, no matter what, regardless of ability. It's just the most important movement. And basically what you're doing is you're finding the grip that you find most comfortable, be it that or any of the 3 ways that I've shown you. And what you're doing with the bodhrán tucked nicely in at your side and your hand on the back, you're striking it down and up and down and up and down and up. That's the very, very basics of playing the bodhrán. Now, some people say that the bodhrán is all in the wrist, and that's fine, but I find that it's more in your forearm. If you notice the way I'm playing the down up stroke, it's just rotations of my forearm. Now, you'll notice that some players, like older players, like Johnny Ringo McDonough, a legend of bodhrán playing, plays with the bent wrist. Now, that's perfectly fine as well to do that. If that's more comfortable for you, then go ahead, because it's not really going to affect your rhythm or your technique. It should be fine. I find it just much more comfortable and less draining on my wrist to keep it straight. So that's why I'm doing it this way. So it's just down up strokes, and that's all you need to learn. So kick everybody out of the house and just play that until your heart's content. That's the very, very basics. So when I was learning how to do that, I kind of took myself to the top of the garden and just beat and beat and beat until I got it sounding. And that is the most fundamental thing you can do. It's the most important thing, regardless of the type of tune you're playing to, if you're playing in a concert, a session, who you're playing with. That is the most important thing there. That. Just down and up. Now, if you're beginning and you're watching this and you're just starting, you're probably finding that you're scraping it or not getting a clear note, and that's fine, because it's perfectly natural to be that way at the start. But what you need to do is just kind of approach it like a thug and hit it. You really just have to hit it confidently, hit it sharp, and don't hesitate, because that's the only way you're going to get the clear note. And there's such a difference between and. So it's just kind of being confident about it and clinical. So if we take it from slow to fast, it's just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And what you want to do then is work that up to speed. Until you get it to something like that. And that's basically the most fundamental thing in learning how to play the Bodhrán.